Hello, everyone. So, as you guys probably already know, the USACO 2025 US Open contest has finally officially ended and the results are posted. So, after 4 months, 5 months of grind, we are finally officially completely done with this USACO 2024 to 2025 season contests. I got a pretty decent score, I would say, on this contest, at least for my first gold, but I thought it was good all the way until today when I found out the cutoff is 850. For those of you that have not taken too many musicals, the level of how high is 850 for musical cutoff? I would just say I have only seen one contest with cutoff more than 800, I think, in my entire life before this one, and that will be a 2016 silver, I believe. And this is one of the highest musical cutoffs. No, actually, it is the highest musical cutoffs of 850 because 900 has never occurred before. That would be crazy. And even this number itself has only occurred twice. And back in February, I was hoping so much that the silver cutoff would not be 150, which in fact it was not. It was only 700. But well, if I was 750, I would still be stuck in silver. But this gold contest having an 850 cutoff is absolutely insane. And as you can see, out of the 600 people who participated in this contest, only 30 was promoted. Actually, 29 was promoted to the platinum division, at least in the United States. My score was a pretty decent rank, I would say. And as you can see, if you guys also just got promoted from silver, you can see that the percentage of promotion is significantly less in gold than it is in silver because, well, back in February, my rank was only about the top 30%, and I was 130 points above the cutoff. Well, right now, I'm like just over half the cutoff, and my rank is already top 30%. And only 30 people out of 600 are promoted. That is a very, very small percentage compared to silver and bronze. So let's take a look at the problems now. Mood decomposition, I already posted a video on it, but in the video I did not mention one very important fact, at least to me, is that USACO was actually honestly kind of stupid when they did this problem. Because think about it, why did they have to make L 10 to the 18th power? Because looking at this L, if you aren't experienced enough USACOer or whatever you would call yourself, you would know that this has to have something to do with fast power or something like that. Because well, obviously 10 to the 18th power is unimaginable to be computed actually. So you, even if you can't prove it like I did during the contest, you still get a very, very strong vibe that it is going to be every single strand is independent. And well, what other ways are there other than just multiplying the number of ways to do each of the copies and using a fast power? That seems to be, well, the only algorithm we know. And then so basically this size of data just gave it all away because 10 to the 18th power, that's like the only option, the only one we have. However, if USACO was just a tiny bit smarter, they would have made this 10 to the third power. Because think about it. Well, the intention of this problem is not to test your fast power algorithm, obviously, because, well, doing the combo stuff, you need to take the multiplicative inverse anyways. And if unless you're going to use the even more complicated extended Euclid algorithm, Fermat's small theorem is your best bet, and then that also requires fast power. So I bet USACO was not trying to test us in the fast power. So why couldn't they just make it to the third power? Because then think about it. People who are, not as skilled will think maybe 10 to the third power times 10 to the sixth power, maybe we could do some kind of an optimization and maybe it'll just fit under the time limit. Even though after a while you might still realize that's impossible. It'll waste people a lot of time instead of just looking at the data structure and immediately knowing. No, looking at the data size and immediately knowing that it's going to be fast power and knowing that each copy is going to be independent of each other. So that was just something that USACO did that I felt like was very stupid of them. 10 to the 18th power looks scary, but well, it only looks scary. Now the second problem, election queries, was a more interesting one, I would say, because this one is what I expect for gold difficulty. Probably still not US Open in 2025, still kind of easy, which as you can see is why the cutoff is 850, right? But significantly more difficult than the first one. My solution for this one is, well, we realized that essentially for two cows to be able to be selected as the two leaders, we have to satisfy that the total number of votes gotten by these two cows have to add up to be greater than or equal to the votes received by the single most popular cow. Right? Think about it. You have, because that's the only way that you're able to split the votes of the single most popular cow into each of the two sections, so that its most popular cow would not be the one selected, and instead it'll be the two that you want to be selected to be the leader. Anyways, I'll be posting a problem review over this probably very soon, so I'll just go into the details then. But then after we know that, I kind of just wrote a binary index tree because, as dumb as I am, even though I told all you guys to remind me of to do segment tree, well, none of you guys did, and I did not review segment tree, and I had to write a binary index tree for a dynamic prefix max, which took n log n times n log n complexity. No, log n times log n, my bad. Log n times log n, which is log squared n complexity. And that is basically around the same size as square root of n. And then I realized that since I just realized something. I'll be going into details in the problem review, but then I just realized something, and I realized I need to add another square root of n to the time complexity, and then on top of what I already have, which is n times log squared n. So that the time complexity of my actual program that's submitted here became, well, square root of n times log n times log n times n, which is basically equivalent to n squared. And then I received the credits for these two subtasks. And the last one was I was just kind of messing around by then. I had like 30 minutes left. I barely understood the problem, and I just submitted a very stupid algorithm that got me actually one test case for some reason. I didn't even get the last sample, believe it or not. The last sample, I got it wrong, and I got some other test case, which is completely ridiculous, but it's true. And the code is just okay, the code is a bit more complicated than I thought, but then basically my idea is I always pour the milk for the cows that have originally the most amount of milk, and then I always take away from the same bottle, and I always pour to the same bottle, and the enemy try to keep the bottle amount of milk as even as possible, and I try to raise them as much as possible. But then we realized that at the end, you can all the A bottles with the most amount of milks at the beginning will have the same amount of milks, and then you can just calculate how many milks you're going to be adding after all these days. It's just A minus B times the number of days you're adding them, and then you evenly distribute that among the A bottles with the most milk, and then you just calculate the final answer, which is what I did, but it could be right because I got one test case and I just maybe implemented it wrong, or it could just be completely bullshit nonsense, and the second one is probably the case. So now let's come back to the contest today, which is USACO 2025 US Open Gold, and this cutoff is very surprising, very, very surprising, even though it's expected, as I took this contest and I know the difficulty is, well, not what it's supposed to be, but 850 still a little bit too much, at least for US Open. And I can't believe Brian didn't mention any of that in his final remarks, because, well, usually the cutoffs are 650 for US Open, 850? Well, that is it for the problem review today, and contest review, and I will be posting problem reviews hopefully on both of these two problems soon enough. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Also, for those of you guys that does not already know, the MIT IT contest is coming up very soon, specifically in less than 48 hours on Sunday for me, and maybe with time zone difference on Monday for other of you. But then it is a pretty good contest. I would suggest taking it if you take USACO seriously, and it's just a very good chance to practice your skills and prepare for the next December contest of 2025. And there are 2 qualification rounds and 1 final round. If you actually perform good, you might actually go to MIT for the final round. So yeah, that's something cool. I'm probably not going, but, well, we'll have a chance. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.